Hey guys, welcome to the Unfiltered DJ podcast. We refer to it as the No BS podcast. It's your boy, DJ Terry Moran, here with you, and my buddy Brandon Lindsey from Mr. DJ Ohio, Cincinnati more specifically. This is the 8th version of our podcast, and we're on a roll. We're on a roll. We are digging up some ideas for today. We welcome guests. We've had guests on almost every podcast, but today's just going to be Brandon and I. And we're going to talk about a couple things. Dumb DJ equipment, or maybe ideas that were flawed that were used in the DJ industry. And then after that, we're going to talk about sales questions that we asked during the interview process. I call it the interview process when we're have a consult with a couple. So some of the sales questions that we use that open up the bride and groom and maybe make them feel a little bit more comfortable and get to that point where they want to ask how much. So with no further ado, we're going to start off with the dumb DJ stuff. Now, everyone has opinions on this stuff, right? And the thing about these is some people love them, some people hate them. I'm going to review the things that make me, either have my blood boil or make me say, what the fuck is this guy doing, or girl? So the first thing, I call them the TPs, also known as the tripod scrims. Now, I have a little bit of American Indian heritage in me, but these TPs are the dumbest thing that I've ever seen in my life. You highlight, basically, this little tent underneath your speaker stand or whatever you want to do. And like DJs think that it makes it look classy. I mean, if you have a black one, it's a little bit better, but if you have the white one and you're just trying to like have some smoke signals come out of that thing, it's just does not look good at an event. It's a trend that I never bought into. I know some of my friends are going to be butthurt about this because they love them, but for me, it's like a big no. It's almost like what cheap DJs do to make what they think make their stuff look elegant, and that's not my gig at all. What do you think, Brandon?
Yeah, I don't like scrims either. We did buy some, I'll admit. So, but we used them for school dances, just to add a little fill, like make it look bigger up there at school dances. And the other thing with those is it's so hard to keep them clean, man. Yeah. Like they get dirty, and then when you're up like shooting through them, you just see like this big stain on the thing the whole time. So they look good about the first time out. Then you got to watch it. So.
Stain, using the thing as a jizz rag? Like, how do you get a stain on it?
I don't know, just being stored in a bag somewhere, box. I don't know. Sometimes they get dirty. So drink spilled on them, whatever. Yeah.
Now, the flip side of that coin is like truss scrims, which I think actually look decent.
Yeah.
I like the way that they light. Black will hide them completely, so it looks like a TV's just hanging in the air, which is cool. But yeah, the tripod scrims just don't do it for me. So, what do you got on your list?
Yeah, I think they just draw more attention to the tripod. It makes it look bigger. Like which again, like I guess if you're doing a school dance and you want things that look big up front, it's good, but not at weddings.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my first one. Let's see what I want to go with first here. I'm going to go old school here a little bit. I'm going to go with Walla Balla. So the Walla Balla game was the Walla Balla game, man. It was interesting. It was. I don't want to give this away, so I want to make sure I pull up the right tab here. Let's see. Hang on. Here it is. Yeah. All right. So the Walla Balla game. This is it right here. There it is. Regis and Kathy Lee trying it out. You tried it. What you did was you had a ball, and you could see the ball hanging here, and then you would try to hip thrust and land it in the baskets right here. Okay. And DJs thought for a long time it was the coolest thing, and it was cringy. I mean, it was if you think about it, it's pretty cringy. I get it that it was a good chance to be interactive, and but I know a lot of guys really liked it way too much. So I'm going with Walla Balla.
I'm in defense of the Walla Balla. It's kind of it's a basketball game. You're swinging your hips, the ball's coming up and into the basket. So we never called it the Walla Balla. We called it the Stud Muffin game. Changed the whole
Oh, okay.
changed the whole preface of it.
Yeah.
And we used to do it only at like Christmas parties, 50th birthday parties. We're not doing it at like first communion parties or weddings or anything like that. But we used to do a hospital holiday party, and we would line up all the surgeons and make them do it. I had like 5 of them, and some of those guys aren't really athletic, so it was some of the funniest stuff I've ever had at my holiday party. So I mean, I guess on how you approach it, but I see what you mean. Like some guys would overuse it or break it out themselves. Like, hey, ladies, watch my skills.
Yeah. See, I think that's why you liked it. You got to show off beforehand in front of the
we also did
other
it,
physicians.
we were on the Bud Light tour for 5 years up at the ski areas, and we used to do it then a lot too. It depends on the audience for sure. You're not doing it at a 10-year-old birthday party.
Yeah, I like this. It shows that one man's trash, another man's treasure here. Okay.
Yep.
So good.
All right. So the next dumb or ridiculous, DJ equipment or get up or whatever, I'm just gonna kind of go with, and this is for the old school DJs, like gear made by Gemini. Like I saw someone talking about this, and as much as it was an open door for a lot of guys getting in the business, Gemini for the longest time would just rip off the looks of like a higher quality equipment, especially like the Denon CD players. I think you're showing one now, or a Gemini copy of Denon CD player. Like this, they never worked on time. You press start, it would wait like 30 seconds, tenths of a second before it would start. It would have a lag here. You push the pitch, it would catch up like 3 seconds later. Just, again, I know it was a vehicle for a lot of people to get into the business, but I remember bought my first set of Gemini turntables thinking, wow, these look just like 1200s, yo. And I found soon after that they were nothing like the 12s. I was trading back in like 2 weeks later, and they wanted to give me $5 a piece for them. So
the first set of mics I ever bought that were somewhat, professional, not like just like a random karaoke mic you get at Radio Shack or whatever, was a Gemini microphone. And I was amazed that it could work through the wall, like the air wall. It wasn't even like a regular wall. Just I was like, oh wow, you see the wall. But yeah, those didn't last too long. They were good for a few weddings.
Yeah.
And didn't go very far past that.
Back when you thought that technology was magic, working through walls, like, oh shit.
You know who I think of, by the way, when I think of Gemini? Shout out to Bernie Fryman. He was like the sales guy for them for a long time. He was like a big rep for them. So I remember him on DJ chat. So my next one is going to be these DJ lights, these up lights that came out a few years ago. And
you got to have a nickname for them. Like them. You got to have a nickname for them, like my teepees.
Yeah, the W lights, I mean, they look like a big W on the wall. Here, I'm going to share this. Let's see. Yeah, these things right here. Like those things. Okay. I don't like those. I don't get them. It's just a lot. It's a lot. And we didn't need them. And it was they were hot for what? Like a couple months, like everybody had to have them, and then they were gone.
Yeah, it was funny. I saw the DJs that like keeping up with the Joneses, like, oh, I got some too, and I'm like, that makes your wall look like a carnival. Like, our lighting's supposed to be elegant and appropriate, not just be like, here you go, everyone, let's light up the W. I mean, if the couple's last name began with the W, that's cool, but otherwise, no.
Right. Yeah, no, that was a waste of money. I mean, those things aren't making you any extra money.
Then you got the guys that try and charge extra for them. I got the neon W lights. It's an extra $100.
Yeah. I love this. We're just hating on everything. It's good.
Well, it's our podcast. We can do whatever the fuck we want. So my next thing on my list, and I'm going to get hate mail, and that's cool. I'm used to hate mail. Haters, is the sync button. Should be outlawed. I know on some controllers you can actually disable it, which when I have a controller that allows me to disable it, I disable it just for the fucking principle of the thing. You know what I mean? Like I mixed for, I don't know, 25 years without a sync button. Sure, does it make it easy? Let's do a comparison. How long does it take me to get, if I'm mixing like a song that's 104.1 into a song that's 108.7, you go up 2 on the 104, you go down 2 on the 108, bang. Takes you about a second and a half. Just as long as it takes to press that sync button and be a bitch. I know you're not going to defend it, and I'm sorry, but
I can't talk on this one. My sync button's worn out. I had to replace it.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. It's not worn out, but I do use it probably too much. I mean, why do I need to reach over there and speed it up when I miss it by a little bit? I missed that first beat, and then I'm gonna go speed it up. I can just hit the sync button. Brings it back together.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're all about labor-saving devices, that thing's perfect for DJs like you. But for me, I mix so long without it that I'm gonna say it feels like you're cheating. Like there's some guys that cannot mix without it, and I'm assuming you probably can because you're old like me. But there's some guys that can't mix without it, and I feel like they just fast forward 6 years and now they're DJs, and they're not going to be creative like we are or anything else. Well, I shouldn't even say that. I'm just saying you skip time by using the sync button. There's been times where like I have to mix by year. I can't look at my waveforms or whatever. You need to know what you're doing, and mixing on vinyl is different than mixing on a controller. Then it's different than mixing on a controller that has moving platters. So that's my thing. I think it's one of those things that if you use it like Brandon does and you want to cheat, that's awesome. But for us guys that are, absolutely against it, I salute you.
Real DJs don't use the sync button.
I didn't want to say it. Chris Romero hates it when I do that shit. Like, yeah, I didn't want to say it.
No, that was for him. Shout out to him.
But in all fairness,
let me see.
Before I leave the sync button, I know the guys that tour Vegas, everywhere, that use it. So, I mean, I guess they're more successful than us. So, what do I know?
I hear you. All right, I got my next one here. Here it is. All right. My next one is this. Okay. The LED curtain that goes behind the DJ. I don't know about this one in the front here, but the one behind, well, I don't like the one in the front either, but they were selling these things for a lot of money too. It wasn't cheap. And then guys were getting these things. I just think they look terrible. And I mean, what are you going to do? Let's say you go to a wedding and that's what you have for behind you, and everything in the room's white, like most weddings that I do, yeah, I don't know. The LED curtain is bad, people. It's bad. If you're still using one, burn it, throw it away.
I also see
get rid of it.
I also see the Bose 901s there on stands that are way too skinny. That thing's going to topple over and kill somebody.
Yeah, he does. He's got them barely opened up.
Yeah.
I got to work on that. Some of my trivia hosts, I got to catch them doing that sometimes. I'm like, open these things up. So it's my number one training thing with my trivia people.
And while we're talking about that, you have a tripod, right? So one of the legs should be where the front of the speaker is going, because that's where the most weight is for it to topple over. So you should always have one leg pointed straight underneath where the speaker is facing. Now, if your stands are here, but the speaker's tilted like at an angle across the room, make sure the leg is right under that, because it takes away its center of gravity. Someone can just tap it. If it's like in between those two stands, it's going to plop over. Anyways, Uncle Terry's advice here.
Good point.
Okay, so my next thing is not so much a piece of equipment, but the way that DJs use it. All these,
Ooh.
wannabe house music DJs that are doing their selfies in front of crowds and they're twisting all the buttons. When you have a 4-channel mixer, you're usually playing on channels 2 and 3 or, 1 and 3 or whatever it is. They're turning the buttons of the other channels that don't mean anything to just look like, hey man, look, I'm making all these adjustments. I didn't make this song, but I'm gonna remix it right here in front of everyone. Hey, like, shut the fuck up, you toolbox. Anyone that knows anything about DJing knows that you're faking it. Nobody twists shit all the way through. You might drop the bass or use a filter on the way out or something, or an echo out, or yeah, that's cool. But you're not sitting there doing aerobics on the mixer, like, hey, yo, let's do it in synchronization so it looks like I'm doing it to the beat. Like, get out of here, bro. Like you're just a clown if you think that anybody believes you're doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
So to all those DJs, caught you, bitch.
I, I agree. And I think it looks so bad because a lot of times the crowd picks up on it and they're like, what is he doing? Like, you can tell like the music didn't change, but this guy's twisting on the knob. Like, it's the
Right.
same song I can play on Spotify,
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, they're faking the
It's
part,
pretty
right?
bad.
I mean, the guy's probably got a
Right.
pre-made mix up there anyways. So he's just faking the part and trying to make it look like he's, oh, wow, this guy's good. He knows what he's doing. Yeah, no, doesn't know shit.
You know what's funny is every now and then you'll get a videographer at a wedding and they'll video you and then they're like, hey,
Do something.
make it look good. I turn into the DJ. I'm like twisting fake knobs for a minute.
What's better
What do
than
you want me to do? It's playing.
It's better than video of you checking your email, right? The Serato face.
Right. That's true. That's true.
So, all right.
All right. What's my next one here? I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with this this little these things right here, man. And it's not that I don't think. I mean, it's tough. Let me pull these up. Okay. All right. Look,
Yeah.
when you have these set up at a wedding, it's not that they don't look good. I mean, I think they look okay. They look all right. The problem is, do you see how much these things cost? Are you crazy? There's no way you're getting your return on investment for these things. Like nobody's ever called me up and said, "Hey, do you have the Astera tubes or something like that?" Like, no, they don't care. No bride cares if you have this. It might look good in the photos later, but it's not. They're not selling for you. Sorry, this is ridiculous to spend that kind of money on something.
I don't know if they can
It's
see the
insane.
price, so why don't you summarize?
$8,300 for 8 lights, 8 light kit with charging, and I think it's got the controller in it as well. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean,
I
you can go get obviously they don't look as cool and you can't program them as well, but you can get something cheaper like a Freedom Stick. At least it's not going to cost you a fortune and you're going to make your money back eventually a little bit. But these things, you're not making your money back on those things. I'm sorry, you're not.
So my take is that,
And it would be different if they were all you brought, right? Like if it's all you had to bring was those, and maybe it just helped your setup a lot easier, then maybe. But most guys don't bring just that. They bring other things too. And so I don't know.
Well, my take is that
I'm not buying
I don't hate them. I mean, I think they look okay. I personally would make that $8,000 investment, but I have talked to some DJs and I asked, how do you price this? And the guy basically said I have two prices, 3,500, which is just basic, and then 5,000 where they get to pick two things, where it's a photo booth or in lighting or whatever they choose to do, and that's it. I don't tack them on pricing. Excuse me, but if they want that look, that's what it costs. So it's not my business model, but I guess the only thing I want to say is, like, I don't hate them. I don't think that it's terrible. The price is terrible, but
Yeah, I think my big thing is the price. Like, I don't, I think they look pretty good at weddings. I mean, I just saw a video where Nick Spinelli did a wedding, and they had them, and they looked good. But I can't believe people pay that much money for those
Yeah.
things. It's
Yeah.
insane.
I mean, I agree. I'm not going to have them anytime soon. So yeah. All right. My next thing on the pet
Yeah.
peeve list
All right.
is how certain DJs slash dinosaurs slash guys that might not be up with the times are still rocking passive speakers, bro. Like, you must have like the college football team in your town help you carry these things around and load them in and out. Like, they're super heavy, you know. Subs can weigh 150 pounds, and it's all because this is what's worked for you, and you're too cheap ass to buy a new set of speakers. Like, I bought the first pair of powered speakers that came out that I knew of, anyways. 1995, I bought a pair of JBL Eon 1s, the gray ones, two-tone gray, ugly ones. And I rocked those speakers for about 20 years, give or take. I think I sold them in 13. So 18 years. And never blew them. And I blow up speakers everywhere, as Toad. Never blew them, and they sounded good. And they weighed like, whatever, 45 pounds. And I still see people out there with their, passive speakers, I have more control and blah, blah, blah. And dude, all you're doing is looking like that old angry uncle that brides don't want to hire when you rock gear like that. Like, that's honestly what you're doing. So if you're gonna compete, we just went to the Evolve, so we don't even have tripod speakers anymore in Bose. So if you're gonna compete, your gear has to look adequate, not antiquated with the dirty carpet all messed up like some mangy mutt on the side of your speakers. No, bro, come on, give it the program.
I could not wait to get rid of my passive speakers. So I can't believe people are still like wanting to use those. It's like a death wish or something. Like, why? It's you just like torture. I mean, it's insane. The other thing is, I don't think I had more problems ever than I had when I ran passive speakers. Like, something overheating, an amp going. I just there were more problems. I don't know if it's just the fact that you could blow up your speaker that much easier. Um, your amps would overheat. The things that would just happen.
Yep.
I couldn't wait to get rid of those things. They were heavy. You're rolling those things around. It was not fun. So I can't believe anybody would still be using those. And not DJs anyway. I mean, I could maybe concert hall where you're set up and good to go, but not DJs. Sorry.
I'll tell you what, Brandon, go on
Yeah.
Facebook Marketplace and search like JBL or any of those brands that used to be passive, and you will find a ton of dudes trying to offload them. So I mean, they serve their purpose. They built my back to be strong, to lifting and lugging that stuff all around for many years. But yeah, no, I just give it the program, man. Give it the program.
So my next one is this. This is I reserve this because it's the worst DJ purchase that I ever made personally. I think probably very few people bought this, but maybe. I think they were probably popular back in the day, but this DVD series in particular, there was one about dancing DJs or something. They had a guy, and what happened was we went to Midwest DJs Live in Louisville. And my business partner at the time, they had some girl dancers there that were doing the sales thing. And he got to talking to the girls, trying to talk up the ladies, and they end up selling them on these DVDs. And we spent a bunch of money. We bought the Gemini mics, and we bought this, and it was a bad purchase. But these things were so cheesy and it just not good information. So they were selling these things to DJs and trying to teach them how to DJ, but it was just so bad. So they were just replicating bad. It was not good. It was not good. So
well, I'm not a dancing DJ anyways. I have never, and swear on my parents' life, never gone out and taught any sort of line dance or anything else. Like, it's just not my thing. I was a touring guy. I was a nightclub guy. That shit was just way too corny for me. So for someone to actually think they're great enough at dancing to put a dancing DJ's DVD together, that would have been the type of guy I wanted to beat his ass at the DJ conventions. And there were a lot of them, but that guy would be my number one suspect.
If you watch this guy on the microphone, dude, it was like, what? It was so bad. It was worse than like the cheesiest cruise ship DJ you've ever seen. It was worse than that.
Yeah.
So if you're out there, the guy who made those, if you're out there, I'm sorry, but it was bad.
Well,
comment below, just so I can give you credit for how bad it was.
And put a link to the shit if you're still trying to sell it.
They're sold out on Planet DJ.
Sure, you got back stock. Thousands of them. Donate them to an art class.
You could probably pull them up on YouTube.
So, I mean, my next and final DJ equipment complaint is going to echo off the last thing. Like carpeted, all the guys that are running passive speakers are still using CDs. I actually saw a guy last summer, so we're in 2024. 2023, he still showed up to a gig with his, what do we call it, magazine full of CDs. No computer, no nada. He did have powered speakers, so, I mean, I got to give him that much. But I could not believe that someone in this day and age, and I didn't examine, I'm not sure if they were promo-only CDs or if he's burning his own shit off Napster or whatever was going on, but he was definitely using CDs. And to me, I just think that someone like that is just afraid of technology and they're making their life harder. Someone breaks in that car and steals those CDs, homie, you are done. Go down to the pawn shop. They'll be selling them down there for $1 a piece. Like, just there's still guys that are out there. And you know what? They're too afraid of podcasts to listen to this shit. So I'm preaching to nobody. But if you know about someone that's still using CDs, just help them learn. You know what I mean? Like, do it.
Yeah, I mean, going back to CDs, first of all, the fear I would have sometimes putting a CD in and hoping that it plays through the first dance without skipping, or like once these things are used for a while, you're like, I just remember being so nervous, like the special dances, I got to put this in. Let's hope it doesn't have a scratch or a smudge, or you're looking at it before you put it in. That was bad. And then I remember doing a party one time, and a lady fell right next to our table, and it bounced and it skipped the whole thing. It was not good. And then so I got a story though. My buddy, I got him into DJing just a few years ago. He bought his own equipment. He's just doing it like as a hobby on the side. He does little parties, and every now and then, if somebody calls me about a party that I know they're not going to have the money to afford us, I'll say, yeah, give my buddy a call. And his dad was a DJ and has been a part-time DJ for many, many, many years, and he still uses. To this day, he's using CDs. And I guess he asked my buddy Scott. He said, "Hey, will you go with me to this event that I have and bring your stuff? I just want to see what you're using." And so literally he goes and the guy's using his CDs, his dad's using his CDs, and people were asking for requests, and it's starting to become overwhelming, and he's writing them down. And my buddy's like, "Hey, I already have everything they requested. I pulled it up in this little list right here." And so he had him on the side list, and he was just he showed his dad, look, here's all you have to do. So he said it was like literally the next day his dad called him up and said, "Hey, I've been looking at those controllers and trying to get it figured out." So I think he's realized pretty quickly, like, man, that's so much easier hauling around CDs when you could just bring a laptop in, bring 2 laptops in, have backup.
Yeah, it's tough. I feel like guys that rely on that are the same guys that ask their kids to print out emails so they don't have to read them. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that
he's about that age. You're right. Yeah. Yeah, he's about that age. You're right. I mean, he's not up to the times, that's for sure.
And I don't want to make it sound like we're bashing on old school DJs, because that's not the case. It's just that whatever your age is, you have to keep up with the trends and the technology and tools that can make your job easier, lighter, make less stress. and make you more efficient. And, a lot of people don't subscribe to that school of thought. So,
Yeah, I think vinyl, there's something nostalgic about it and it looks cool and stuff like that. There's nothing that looks cool about shoving CDs in
yeah.
and out of a deck or grabbing them out of a big trifold thing,
Well,
a
I think
binder,
that some guys also look at the
whatever.
investment and say, I've already bought all this music. How am I going to go and replace it now with MP3s or MP4s or whatever you're running? And, you know, um, and the answer is you don't have to. You can rip them if you want, um, or you can get into a pool that has all you can eat. There's various pools that let you all you can eat for the money and just download your heart away. So, yeah, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but it is the last thing here. So,
Yeah, yeah, cool. Well, those are all the dumbest DJ inventions
yeah,
or whatever.
tools or whatever you want to do. And I'm sure you guys
That
have
was our
yours.
bitch
So
set.
if there's something that, you know, makes your nuts boil, why don't you just put in the comments below and maybe we'll discuss that on a later podcast. So, next up, we
Yeah,
have, I think we're talking about sales questions, like some of the questions I ask couples or clients in general, but I think we're going to focus more on couples here because that's the most opportunity we have for sales. There's a lot of different ways to do sales. I think I've spoken past podcasts about how I have a automated DJ event planner that pushes people towards my calendar, and then they just book a time that works for them, and then we have our meeting. So interesting numbers. Say if I got 100 leads, right? I only close about 30% of those leads, and most of the reasons we don't know why. Probably price, but a lot of times we just get ghosted. They get our pricing, we never hear back from them. But when people actually book a meeting with us, when I say a meeting, that pertains to in-person meeting, which I haven't done in 5 years, or a Zoom meeting, which is most common. If they book that meeting with us, my closing percentage is over 90%. I close 9 out of every 10 couples we talk to. So for me, I want to get the meeting. So when I do get the meeting, whether it's a phone or Zoom, one of the questions I ask them, and everyone's like, "Oh, tell me about your wedding." I want to get a couple of questions out of the way initially when I talk to them because, I took a lot of sales courses when I was an engineer. Um, the main thing they say in sales courses is that they don't want you to vomit on the client. They don't want you to just spit up everything that you do to them because 6 or 8 out of 10 of those things might not apply. Like if you're talking to a customer and tell them how great your ceremony setup is and they're getting married in church, but you don't know that because you haven't asked, you're wasting their time. So the first thing I say is, why did you want to book a meeting with me? And then I just shut up. And if there's an awkward silence for a couple seconds, that means that they didn't expect the question, and that's okay. But don't talk, just shut up. And they'll start to go, "Oh, well, we liked what we saw on your webpage." "Oh, that's great. I appreciate that. What was it that you liked on my webpage? Was it the lighting? Was it that I have the guns? Was it that you liked our DJ setups because we have various. I dig a little bit. Like, tell me more about that. The main question I ask all day is, tell me more about that. Whenever they say, because the more you dig in, the more you're gonna peel back that onion and see what it is that they want to be sold on. And I'm not a guy that's like a high pressure car
mm-hmm.
salesman. I just find a way to get to the nugget. So why did you bring me? Why did you book this meeting with here today? "Oh, we saw you open for Recycled Percussion last year for 40,000 people in Manchester. We saw you DJ at the Beach Bar, Lake Misaki. We were at a friend's wedding." I need to know where they're coming from. If they've already seen me play or watched my videos, at least they know something about me. I don't have to give such a big intro. So I take whatever they say there and I say, "Oh, tell me more about that." Like, in that way we kind of go down a path. And what I'm doing is just collecting data, right? And then my second question is usually, tell me the 3 things that are important to you in the DJ that you're going to hire to do your wedding. Now, I say going to hire because I want to make it sound like they're going to interview other people and it's not just me. And I'm trying to, establish, the things that are important to them. And then whatever 3 things they say, I write down 1, 2, 3. Okay. And then that's all I talk about for the next 10 fucking minutes. You know, you want everyone on the dance floor. You know, you want a DJ that doesn't think he's a fucking comedian. You know, you think DJs that teach dances are the biggest pussies in the world. Okay, and then I write those 3 things down, and that's all I talk about. Oh, you want everyone on the dance floor? Well, let me tell you, to be honest with you, weddings are the hardest DJ gig for DJs to do. And here's why. You have 5 generations of people, right? You have your little cousins, you have your cousins, you have your aunties, your crazy aunties, you have your grandparents. So there's 5 generations of people there. And if there's 120 people, they have 120 different favorite songs. And it's your job to cook up a pot that's going to be pleasing and satisfying to everybody. So that's why weddings are the hardest scope. If I had to just do like a prom and play all music from the last 2 years, it's the easiest gig in the world. But when you're trying to get 5 generations and use all these different genres, right? We're not just going to play Pitbull remixes all night. That's why it's the hardest gig. So you want to hire a DJ that has methods in what they do to get people on the dance floor and has proven reviews, hundreds of reviews from people after they paid us and after we've executed at their wedding that talk about the dance floor packed. Boom, checklist. That they're completely satisfied on the number one thing that's important to them. And then 2, you know, if it's, you know, we saw a wedding DJ where he was trying to be a comedian, crack all these jokes and it wasn't working and blah, 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 blah. You know, I would combat that and just say, you know, I take myself seriously, but I don't take what I do all that seriously. So I'm going to try and be jolly and happy about the day, but I'm not going to be telling dirty jokes to your uncles over the microphone. So you don't have to worry about that. And, you know, whatever, the third thing, whatever it is that they talk about, that's all I talk about. And then when I'm done, I say, what else do you want to talk about? You guys interested in lighting or anything else? And if they say no, then that's it. That's the end of the conversation. And I kind of wrap up. But I leave that meeting with them thinking, wow, this guy has everything we want. It's kind of like a subconscious way to come in the back door, find out what their little secrets are, talk about just that. And they're like, holy shit, this guy's perfect. The other question I ask sometimes on the phone, and it depends on the couple, is I ask, what year that they were 15 years old. And they go like, huh, what? Oh, I got to do the math. You know, I was born in 1980, so 1995. And if they don't ask me why, I say, well, because I feel like most of us at age 15, music was most important to us in our lifetime. You might still like music now, but when you were 15, it was really important to you. So if you end up hiring me for your DJ, I'm going to go back from 1995 and look at all the songs from 1993 to 1997 and pick out some nuggets there that you might not ask me for, but I'll just stick into my mix that I know is going to create a good vibe. And right away, they're like, wow, this guy's the greatest fucking guy in the world. Let's hire him. Pay him 10% over what he's asking. Let's go. So those are some of the, not tricks, but those are some of the methods that I use to create a good bonding experience and get to the root of the matter, what they really want. I'll give you another example. I was at a bridal show about a month ago, and I was qualifying this lady by asking her those questions. And then she talks about, oh, yeah, we want a guy that's going to do the shoe game and this and that and that and that and that and that. And right away, I was like, oh, let me see here. What's your wedding date again? Oh, I'm booked that day. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, yeah, I do something similar. I think, so first thing I would do when I get on the phone with somebody is I would just confirm the details to make sure that we're on the same page, you know, where they're having it and if they're having the ceremony there, things like that. The other thing I like to do then is comment about their venue. Most of the time I've been there, so I'd like to show that I'm familiar with the place and I've been there and worked it the same way that they are planning on working it, whether their wedding's at the gazebo or under the awning out back or in the same room or whatever. You know, yeah, we've done it that way there, and you know, I can show them that by those comments. You know, how did you hear about us? That's probably my third question. I like to find that out. Just like you said, you know, you want to know, like if they seen you at a wedding already, it might make it a little easier. you could even comment on that wedding and things like that, things that they might have seen there. The other one for me is I like to ask them, this is probably a unique question for me. I like to ask them, what have you seen before at a wedding that you were like, oh man, that was awesome. I hope the DJ does that at my wedding. Or I hope the DJ doesn't do that at my wedding. Like what was something that made you like not want that DJ? And I usually get some really good answers there, some interesting things. And sometimes it's some of the stuff you're talking about there where, you know, they'll come out and say, well, this guy was really cheesy on the microphone, or, you know, during dancing, he would completely stop the music, and, you know, who knows what, right? So I think that's kind of a fun thing to ask, get them talking a little bit about what they want. Another one that I'll ask sometimes is if you were able to, at the end of your wedding, hide in the bushes outside the country club or hide around the corner, and you could hear people as they were leaving your wedding talking about your wedding, what words would you want them to be using to describe their evening? And that one's always fun too. You know, sometimes it's fun. I'll say a lot of times you get the same thing. You get people throw out we want it to be fun. You know, I hope they say it was fun. I hope, but every now and then you'll get something that really, you know, it's kind of just like an idea popper for you. And yeah, I like the idea of those things that they tell you in those conversations. That's what you come back with, and make sure you cover those as you talk about what you do. And I usually will have about 4 areas I think that people really typically will comment on. And if they mention 3 of them, sometimes I'll throw in the 4th one as well, just to add another piece to it, you know. You know, a lot of times it's music. Obviously, they're going to probably talk about the music in some way most of the time. Not being cheesy on the mic, or, you know, maybe that it flows well, those types of things. So I kind of have a little bit prepared in my mind before I go in, that I know how to talk about those things and explain to them that we do those things well, and why it's important to us. Um, you know, before I get into price, I do all that stuff, and I usually just save the pricing and stuff till the end. I think it's a good, you know, it's a good thing to do. I know a long time ago, when I took Bill Herman's seminar, one of the things he talked about was just asking why, using why quite a bit, and digging a little deeper, and in particular into planning as well. You know, you sit down with somebody and they said, well, we're not going to do a mother son dance, and you just ask, hey, I'm not trying to pry, but, you know, why aren't you doing that? And then, you know, maybe you find out that his mom is in a wheelchair, or maybe you find out that his mom's passed away, or maybe you find out that him and his mom don't have a great relationship, or, you know, who knows what, you know. But you might find out something that you could come up with a solution for them. Maybe they want to do it, but right, but there's a reason that they can't, or whatever. So you might be able to find a solution for them. And if you can do some of that in the planning meeting, in the sales meeting, and show that you're a valuable resource, I think that's important too.
Yeah, that's a good point. I would use tell me more rather than why, because I think why aggravates the fuck out of me if people ask me why more than 3 times. But if you're like, oh, tell me more about that, it sounds like you're genuinely interested instead of why.
Yeah.
And you're a smart guy, so you don't have to take my tips, Brandon, but that's what I would do. So I agree with you on, you know, finding out more about the client, but about like first dances and things like that. But that's like after the sale. I want them to just walk away with enough information about me to be salivating a little bit. You know what I mean? That this guy's good. He knows what he's doing. He's done it a ton of times. He's got great reviews. But I'll give you an example. One time I had a bride that postponed her wedding on me because her dad was getting cancer treatments. And then he died like the week before the postponed date. So they weren't going to change it again. But she was obviously devastated, you know, that she wanted her daddy there. So what I did at no cost was I brought a TV there, and she danced with her mom for her, you know, parent dance. But we had a montage of dad up on the TV, almost like he was looking down at them. And I just did that without charge to her because, you know, she had been my bride, trusted in me. And I think for moments like that, you just try and do whatever you can to take away someone's grief. And I wanted her to have more, joy than grief on their wedding day. So it's important too to tune into those things. I agree with you.
Yeah, yeah. And I know sometimes it's a little early in the sales process when you do that, but every now and then, you can find something in those conversations where you throw out this example and they realize that you're willing to do more for them than just show up and play music,
Right.
And I think that's a really cool thing to show couples during that process. So we also convert at a really high rate once we get the meeting. So you're right. I mean, it's just the biggest thing is getting the meeting, from the sales funnel all the way down to that meeting.
Yeah, and you said that you don't give your pricing until you have that meeting. I give my pricing in the first email because I don't want to waste anybody's time. Like, I'm higher than most DJs in my market, and my buddy Chris isn't as much as me, but he's still above average. So, I mean, in a way, if they're reaching out to me at some of these high-end resorts that we do our weddings at, I'm assuming that they have a healthy budget. But I give pricing, so I have a hidden link on my website. You can't find it if you search it on Google, but I have my web designer put it so if you have the link, you can get there. And I list out all my pricing there. And, if then they want to, have a meeting with me, I feel like that's a more qualified lead, that I don't waste my time talking to someone for an hour when their budget's $600. I'm not saying what you're doing is wrong.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it saved me a lot of time, and all my leads are now qualified because they know how much I cost.
Yeah, so we send out what they have before they meet with us is like our starting rate, and then we have other pricing after that. So they'll know coming in that they're going to spend at a minimum of this amount before they get into the meeting.
Okay.
So if they want me specifically, it's more. If they want to add certain things on, it's more. But I can get them in with one of my crews for cheaper than they could get in with me.
Yep.
So I cover that in that meeting, but I really don't get into that too much in the beginning because I think it's a lot. I think it's a lot to try to. It can be confusing for people, like, oh, so their price is either this or this, and what's different about this package? So I'd rather get them in and let them know we can get you in a full wedding package at this price, but if you want me specifically, it's a little more, and I can explain that once I have them in the meeting.
If you want the big dog to come out of the kennel, it's going to cost you.
That's right. That's right.
So, yeah, no, I agree. I think that the sales process should be that, just like they always say. I've taken 1 million sales courses, so this might seem cliche to me, but they always say you're supposed to talk more than you listen to your clients. But I think that you have to ask the right questions to get them to talk, because sometimes they're so overwhelmed, they have no idea. They just want the guiding light to run their wedding for them, and that's okay too. That's okay too. But if you can get information out of them, you're going to have a better chance of closing that sale because you're going to build that rapport on those few questions. And I know there's guys out there that like have the whole PowerPoint and they take over the screen and they talk for like 15 minutes before they even like ask the client a question. And I just don't think that today's clients want to be sold that way. They want to have a conversation. Like when my office was open, I had a bar and a kegerator in my conference room. And I would always say, pre-COVID, I'd say, guys, come on up. We'll have a beer, like we'll just kick it and talk about the wedding. And I pretty much sold like 50 of 55 for the 2 years that we had that conference room. People that came up. It was great. But I try and have that same rapport with people over the Zoom. And, most of the time it works. I think that my passion comes out when we start talking. I think that my knowledge comes out, my experience. Sometimes my gray hairs come out too, which I'm not happy about. But what are you going to do?
Yeah. Yeah, I enjoy the sales meeting. I love it. I get sitting down with a couple, talking to them about their wedding, explaining to them, what we can do for them and stuff is a lot of fun. And hearing about what they have planned, I love it. What I don't enjoy is trying to get the meeting. That part of sales is the toughest thing in the business. Especially nowadays. People are just a lot of times they're in a hurry and they want things. They want things right now, and sometimes they get frustrated if you can't give them the exact price. And it's like, hey, I don't even know I need to know more about your wedding before I can give you the exact price, but yeah, I mean, I do once I get them in front of me, I love that process. And it's one of I like meeting new couples and learning about what they have, and then showing them what we can do to make their wedding awesome for them.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think we're at our limit here, Terry, for today, episode 8, kind of in the books here. I think it was a good one. I like the first session, which was just the bitch session, and then the last part where you really got to see our hearts come out. So
well, I don't know if in the future if we should put like the professional hearts come out shit at the beginning and then the bitch at the end, or I don't know.
Maybe. All right. Well, everybody, make sure you subscribe, help us out, share the video. We'd love for people to share what we're doing here and build up the crowd. So appreciate it, and we will see you next time.